Recall the four horns of the he-goat of Daniel 8, and the fact that the pleasant land, the Jewish nation, is represented by a calf or bull. Recall the question, why is the Jewish nation represented by a bull calf? Recall the answer given. The Jewish nation rejected Christ and his sacrifice, so they became the sacrifice. But there is another reason. Recall agriculture and Revelation. Well, there is a sequence here that is important to Revelation and prophecy. An important pattern or sequence in Revelation. The dragon, the source of, the flood, the seed, from which springs are developed, the land beast, the growth. Recall Israel in Revelation, namely the dragon, Pharaoh, the flood, Korah and his fellow conspirators, and the land beast, the northern kingdom of Israel and its golden calves. Our important pattern or sequence in Revelation gives rise to Revelation's pattern or sequence in Israel. Pharaoh, the source, Korah and his fellow conspirators, the seed, and the northern kingdom of Israel and its golden calves, the growth. But Pharaoh is the king of the south. Recall the divisions of Alexander the Great's empire, the king of the north and the king of the south of Daniel 11, and thus that Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, is the king of the south. So Pharaoh is king of the south. But if of the south, then what of the seed? And what of the growth? Should they not both be of the south also? Recall Korah's rebellion is from the south. That is, Korah and his fellow conspirators are from the southern camps of the camp of Israel. Recall also that the northern kingdom of Israel arises from the south. That is, that Jeroboam, its first king, arrives from the south, from Egypt. But there is more. Notice Korah's rebellion. And they, Korah and his fellow conspirators, gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, and said unto them, Ye take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Wherefore then lift ye up yourselves above the congregation of the Lord. Numbers 16:3. In other words, why do you separate yourselves from the congregation and set yourselves over and above them, as for example with a separate and distinct priesthood? All the congregation are holy. All men are holy and able to serve in the priesthood. Confirmation of the correctness of this understanding comes from Moses, who asks, Seek ye the priesthood also? Verse 10. This sentiment, this seed, produces visible growth under Jeroboam, for we read, Jeroboam made priests of the lowest of the people, which were not of the sons of Levi. 1 Kings 12:31. Whosoever would, he consecrated him, and he became one of the priests. 1 Kings 13:33. God had appointed a people separated from the children of Israel, set aside for the holy office of the priesthood, the Levites, specifically Aaron's descendants. But Korah's rebellion had declared all men holy, and thus the priesthood open to all. Thus God's precepts were set aside for man's devisings. But there is more. Notice Jeroboam and his calves. Jeroboam made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. 1 Kings 12:28. Thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Where have we heard that before? Aaron had made it a molten calf, and they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Exodus 32:4, showing that the calf of Mount Sinai is also part of the seed. Planted then, it, like the notions inspiring Korah's rebellion, lay dormant, its growth only springing forth under Jeroboam's reign. Take note of the following additional piece of evidence indicating a connection between these calves, that of Mount Sinai and those of Jeroboam. Jeroboam's 2 calves arise after the 40-year reign of Solomon, 1 Kings 11:42, while Mount Sinai's calf arises after the 40-day stay of Moses on Mount Sinai, Deuteronomy 9:11 and 12. Now, the calves, the big question that needs answering is, who or what is this calf? This calf and not these calves, as it is obvious that Jeroboam's calves and the Mount Sinai calf are connected, one and the same. Digging a little deeper, notice the following concerning the calf. Calf, Hebrew, Aigel, occurs for the first time in the Bible, in reference to the golden calf. It occurs a total of 6 times in the book of Exodus, all in chapter 32, all references to the golden calf. Why is 6 significant? What does it mean? The number of the beast is the number of a man, 666, or 666, or 666. Revelation 13:18. So God created man in his own image, and the evening and the morning were the 6th day. Genesis 1:27 and 31. From these verses it can be seen that 6 is the number of man, for man was created on creation day 6, and indicates a fallen short of godly perfection, the number of God being 7. But why 6? Because this is a man-centered religion. How so? How do we know? Recall Korah's rebellion and Jeroboam's priesthood. All the congregation are holy. Rather than a divinely appointed priesthood separated from common man, a priesthood that is open to all because all men are inherently holy. And Korah's rebellion? Recall his rebellion and recall the standards of the camp of Israel. So Korah's rebellion originates from the man side of the camp of Israel. Thus Korah's rebellion is human-motivated, man-centered also. But actually it is not just Korah's rebellion, Jeroboam's priesthood, and Mount Sinai's calf that are human-motivated, man-centered. Everything from of the south is. Recall the south is man's side, as opposed to the north, which is God's side. Thus it might be said concerning from of the south, as it was said of Jeroboam, devised of man's heart, 1 Kings 12:33, 6, the number of a man indeed. But Korah's rebellion has one more surprise. Recall his rebellion. On? Who or what is this? It is noteworthy that On is only mentioned once in the entire Bible, in Numbers 16:1, and the name never appears again in the Scriptures. Why? What is On? And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zappanaphaneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. Genesis 41:45. And Pharaoh called the name of Joseph Zappanaphaneah, and he gave to him Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of Heliopolis, to him as wife. Genesis 41:45. ABP. Hebrew On, the Greek Heliopolis, as the above comparison between the Septuagint Greek Old Testament based ABP, Apostolic Bible Polyglot, and Hebrew-based KJV, reveals, meaning city of the sun, site of the main cult of Ra or Re, the Egyptian sun god. Korah's rebellion does indeed have one more surprise: the colorings of sun worship. Notice now the characteristics of this picture. South, 6, sun, man, and image idol, all characteristics of Daniel 11's King of the South. So truly the South, a man-centered religion. But we still haven't answered the big question. These calves, this calf. Who is the calf? Note once again, from of the south, Egypt, and on, Heliopolis, city of the sun. Who is this calf? Menevis or Mer-wer, an aspect of Atum-Ra, the chief god of Heliopolis, the city of the sun. Note the sun disk between the calf's horns. So what is the other reason why the Jewish nation is represented by a bull calf? In Daniel 8, because of the golden calves of Israel's past, a history of rebellion, of man-centered religion, of the tradition of men, coming to its culmination during Jesus' walk on this earth. For laying aside the commandment of God, ye hold the tradition of men. Mark 7:8. An idolatry that God was eventually forced to destroy.